So our next speaker is Elisa Peirano. She is the R&D data analyst at LACNIC. She's a telematic engineer. She works at LACNIC with data science, where she's focused on internet measurements. She's the co-chair of the Internet Measurements Working Group created by LACNIC and LACNOG, and is a member of the FTL Program Committee at LACNIC. So please join me in welcoming Elisa to the stage.
Thank you, Rob. So I bring you news from the LACNIC region regarding internet measurements. As you may know, LACNIC is the RIR for Latin America and the Caribbean. We cover a total of 33 countries. So last year, we carried out a study meant to analyze traffic paths within each country in the LAC region. We collected data, we obtained interesting results, some according to our expectations, others not so much. But mostly what we confirmed was that while the study was very valuable to us and our community, we do not have a reliable, representative, as unbiased as possible, a data source for internet measurements. So with this in mind, I would like to go over the goals and main results of the study, then tell you a little bit about the internet measurements data sources available in our region. And finally, sharing information about a new program we launched this year, which we hope will help us in getting to the data source we need. Okay, so to give you a little bit of context, we are, of course, very interested in measuring the connectivity between the networks operating in our region. We did a study back in 2020 based on latency, and then other studies based on the information available in the routing tables. With these measurements, we hope to have a general view of the connectivity at a routing level, both country and region-wise. So the study is called Traffic Path Analysis for each LAC country. And for this study, we ran a campaign of active measurements of ICMP trace routes from software profs of the SpeedChecker platform, which ended up covering around 1,500 networks in the region. I should note that not every country is represented in the study simply because we didn't have enough measurements on them. So we follow the trace route with each hop using various geolocation data sources to be as accurate as possible, geofeeds from LACNIC, IP map from the RIPE-NCC, and registration information available for every RIR in the delegated files. And we basically wanted to understand traffic paths within a country, looking for AS centrality, if the path lengths were reasonable, how local traffic remained, and if IXPs were visible in the data. So let's see some of the results. Okay, we looked at latency between two consecutive hops and compared the ones that remained local to the ones that went to another country. In the picture to your left, you can see the blue color representing internal latency, always lower than external latency in red, which is obviously a relief. And then we also checked latency in trace routes that went through an IXP network and compared it to those we didn't. Again, in most cases, to your right, you can see that latency that goes through an IXP is generally lower than from the trace routes that don't. And of course, we use peering DB to identify IXPs in each country, so if it should happen that one of them wasn't registered, it won't appear in the data. A little bit more information on IXPs. This chart shows the percentage of trace routes that goes through an IXP for each country. For us, it was striking to see the cases of Panama and Bolivia with such high percentages. And in other countries, even if it isn't as high, the IXP always shows up in the top 1 and 2 of the AS centrality ranking. And in countries where we consider have a mature IXP, the percentage is always higher than 40. Unfortunately, we had surprising cases from Brazil and Chile with very low percentages, and we believe this is due to a bias in the data source. And the last piece of information I want to show you is these graphs we plotted representing the data from the trace routes. So the legend would be the fully painted nodes are ASs, and if the center is white, it's an IXP. The size is how many trace routes went through them. The links represent adjacent hops, and the length indicates latency. And finally, different colors are different countries. So here I'm showing two graphs. To your left is Panama, where we can see Panama's IXP internet at the center of it. And there's also two ASs with big presence in Panama, the ones in orange, which we call them worldwide networks because they operate in many countries all around the world. And then to your right is Uruguay, my country of origin. There's no IXP there, but as you can see, there is a big provider which through all of the traffic passes. So this was a very tiny piece of information from the study. You can find it in the LACNIC website in English if you're interested to reading. And yeah, so now let's see. Let's talk a little bit about internet measurements in data sources in the LACNIC region. The truth is there aren't very many, and the ones that are often cost money and have restrictions and limitations on how and what we can measure. For the study I mentioned, we used the Speed Checker platform, which has decent coverage, but has a big bias towards mobile networks because that's where all of the probes are installed. And at the time we ran the measurements campaign, they didn't offer IPv6 support. And then, of course, you will know this one is RIPE Atlas from the RIPE NCC. This is the ideal platform for us where we are aiming to have a bigger coverage in our region. But as for now, the coverage is minimum in almost every country, and in some others, absolutely no coverage. And you can see here I'm showing coverage for these the platforms and then the RIPE Atlas map of connected probes. So in 2020, we started to work on this more actively, trying to target countries and specific communities, first informing of the RIPE Atlas platform through webinars, and then with the deployathons to install the software probes. And since then, we could actually see a big increase on the connected probes. We did work with Mexico, Bolivia, Colombia, and Panama in the past. And this year, we are planning to target Guatemala, Honduras, and Costa Rica. Of course, we try to install as many probes as possible in different networks in these countries, and anchors mostly in IXPs and very big providers. We obviously still have a long way to go. And to mention just a few of the issues we stumbled upon when working with RIPE Atlas, was one, the fact that we don't have known or trusted people in every country to help us gather these groups and help us organize the webinars. Some countries have different situations, political, economical, social, so it's difficult to get into. And then another issue was that even though the software probes are a great alternative to hardware probes, not every person that is interested in hosting a probe has a server available for this purpose. Okay. Yeah, so with this, I would like to introduce the R&D Ambassadors Program. In LACNIC, of course, we have the need to deploy as many different types of infrastructure for various reasons. To lower criticality of fundamental resources to the internet, like LACNIC DNS Anycast servers and DNS root servers. We actually have an agreement with NetNode to deploy the ICE servers in our region. I think we're up to 13 ICE servers and a couple others still in the process of being installed. To improve security and stability in the network with IPv6, RPKI deployment, and DNSSEC adoption, and to promote adoption of standards and best practices. And then to have a better understanding of how the internet works in the region with BGP collectors and, of course, measurement platforms. So for this issue in particular, we are hoping to find people that help us mobilize these targeted groups and give us access to their communities to help us organize the webinars and deployathons. We tend to go for software probes because we encountered custom issues with hardware probes in the past in our region. So this R&D Ambassadors program intends to structure the collaboration of technological leaders in the community with LACNIC through a formal program. We look for people to help us deploy infrastructure, and we ask for a plan of action lasting a year and detailed activities to carry out, and LACNIC in turn offers benefits to assist with those activities and the chance to present the results at our annual meetings. So, this is it. I hope you find it interesting, and I leave all of the necessary links if you want to access in the presentation and my contact information. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Elisa? Oh, question right here. Can we take the microphone?
I was just wondering, how involved is it to implement the probes? Like, what is...
We have to first, of course, inform about the platform, because not everyone knows about RAPE Atlas in our region still at this point. And then we have to give all the available information, and we have to sometimes convince them why this is a good thing. And
But I guess my question would be, if I have access to infrastructure, what do I need to, like, what's required to be a probe in the network?
No requirements. You just have to be available to host it. We don't ask for anything. It's only the collaboration.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. There's a question over there. Oh, two questions. They're popping up. Just take Fergus first, please.
Hi, Fergus from Flex Optics. I'm a RIPE ambassador probe, and basically you can get an Atlas probe from any of the ambassadors, and it all just goes into the whole system, so it doesn't just for LACNIC.
Of course.
So normally I have some with me, but I don't today.
Yes, and please get more probes spread out outside of Europe. More probes, please. If you know somewhere traveling, try to get probes, put them out there. Thank you very much for supplying probes outside of Europe.
Okay.
There was a question.
Yes, so there's Ulrich from B3. Virtual probes. If you have a virtual machine somewhere, set up one. And yes, so I wanted to ask, you have all these traffic measurements. What do you do with it?
Well, so we just finished the study last year, and then at the beginning of this year, we did a webinar to explain what we are hoping is to reach network operators and IXPs and get feedback for us if this is the kind of study they are looking for, if it helps them in any way, or if it doesn't, and how can we help them understand how we are connected in our region. And then, of course, maybe there's useful information for them to see most of my traffic is going through Brazil instead of staying in my country, or most of my, I don't know, that kind of stuff that maybe helps correcting some issues.
Okay. So if there are no more questions, would you please join me in thanking Elisa for a fantastic presentation? Thank you so much.